Hello, welcome to the Nintendo Bros podcast. This is Pete,
And this is Derek.
and we are two brothers that talk about video games. Thanks for joining us today, Derek.
Yeah, like always.
Like every episode.
Yeah.
Exactly. What's new with you, Derek? What's new in your life?
Just bought a car actually a couple days ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like in Forza?
No, like a car in real life. And I'm now apartment hunt or not apartment, but like house hunting.
Wow, amazing. So what exact address do you live in now, just for our listeners? What's your license
postal
plate?
code and my credit card number is this. No, I'm not going to share that.
Well, that's great. It's been pretty slow for me. It's slow season for my work, so I've just been chilling and playing lots of games. So I have lots of games to talk about that I've been playing.
Yeah, me too. I've been trying to cram through a bunch to get a better game of the year kind of list forming. So
Same. I mean, just to touch on that quickly, so our listeners know we have our game of the year discussion usually around the end of January, so we can kind of play some of those final end of the year games. And probably our next podcast after this. Do you think, Derek, we'll talk about our game of the year?
yeah, that'll be like the 20th. So that makes sense.
Yeah, and I already have my list, but I'm just kind of like slowly shuffling them around and replaying them.
Me
and
too.
things like that.
I have like a top 11, but I also have a list of about 5 or 6 games that I'm currently playing or want to play, and I think some of them will actually knock a few off. So it'll be interesting.
Well,
it was a
actually.
hard year. Again, we'll talk about this in a couple weeks, but it was a hard year. A lot of them were kind of neck and neck.
Same here, and I've recently started playing a new game that I really like, and that's knocked some games off the list, and I have to try to stay balanced. It's tough.
Yeah, I know, because there's also the effect of the most recent you played, right?
Totally, and you know what? Looking at just the reset era, like who's been guessing for game of the year so far, it does look to me like Metroid Dread will probably win that.
I think Returnal and Metroid Dread are back and forth, and I think Metroid Dread will win high score overall, but I think Returnal will win the most number one votes.
Yeah, to me, the winner is who gets the most points, right? Like if enough
Me,
people,
me too, but I'm just saying, if you think about who played Metroid, the amount of people, I don't know. Like Returnal's getting a lot of number ones, like, and so is Dread, but I think Returnal even has more now. So we'll see.
Anyways, I went to the page where people were voting, and there's not a lot of votes in it. It seems like people wait, but when I kind of went to the page, I Command F and searched for how many times Metroid Dread was on the page, and how many times Returnal was on the page.
Yeah.
To me, it's almost hands down Dread's gonna win. Like it had almost double the amount of mentions.
Well, first off, you got to remember that some people write in their discussion like the word Dread as they talk about it or anything like that. And secondly, some people, when they talk about other games, they reference Metroid or Metroidvania. So I don't know how you did your search. And the last thing is, if Metroid, it's not getting as many number one places as Returnal. That's just a straight up fact.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's getting second or fifth, it's getting half the number of points as a first place for Returnal. So you're right. Like I think Metroid Dread will win in the end, but I think it's not as obvious as your Command F or Control F. As you're saying.
I agree. If I had to predict right now, I would say it's probably gonna be number 1 Metroid Dread, number 2 Returnal, number 3 Halo Infinite.
No, I think It Takes Two has a good chance too.
Yeah, and that'll be up there too. But anyways, let's save that discussion for next week. There's
For sure.
a little bit of news today. First bit of news is E3 is being today announced that it's going to be online only.
Oh wow, it's already announced today. Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's early, right? Like it's only January, and the event's usually in June or July. But I
They
guess
probably
they're
have to pick
planning.
a day. Yeah, they got to pick a day to officially say like what their plans are, right? Because they got to get all this stuff organized.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it doesn't really matter because it's not like I go to E3 anyways.
And also, honestly, E3 is in a weird way getting less and less relevant. So I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it just becomes online permanently.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, who knows where the world's going in terms of large-scale events.
Yeah.
But I still get excited by E3. I don't know if Sony will bring any games or even show up because they didn't last year. But I do get excited to see Microsoft and Nintendo reveal new games. And
Yeah, and
I
even
feel like
just the other third-party games can be awesome.
yeah, and I mean, I do get the feeling that this year, especially after 2 years of kind of slower COVID releases, that both Microsoft and Nintendo should be gearing up for some big announcements. At the very least, we'll see Starfield.
I think almost every company is going to have big games this year. I think this is going to be a disgusting year.
Same.
2022 into 2023 is going to be ridiculous.
I guess the main difference, though, is on the PlayStation camp. Horizon and Gran Turismo, which are two of the biggest games of the year, will have already come out and probably done really well. And then we already know God of War is their big holiday game. That so
The Last of Us remake is probably going to come.
Well, that's the next thing we're going to
Factions.
actually talk about too. So because Naughty Dog has things to reveal, so I don't doubt there'll be more, but I think we kind of know their strong lineup for the year. Where Nintendo, maybe there's a few surprises. It could be a Mario or a Zelda, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, for PS5 seems like it's pretty spelled out. Like I don't think we're going to get Final Fantasy 16 or any big surprises. I think we'll probably get, like you said, Factions, Last of Us remake, God of War, and then maybe a kind of a smaller Kena style release.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And hopefully PSVR, right? PSVR was announced at CES the other day. Did you take a look at any of that?
I saw it. I didn't read too much into it. I just know that a sequel's coming, a second system.
Yeah, so a little bit of news. They didn't talk about it too much, but it has new controllers, so they're more resemble kind of the 3D sensing controllers of other VR units.
Okay, yeah.
They announced a Horizon game.
Okay.
If it's a spin-off or if it's it'll probably end up being a bit of a spin-off, right? Probably something like based on in the engine. They've already gotten number 2, and who knows. And there's also, they kind of lightly hinted at a 2022 window. And they also basically said they don't have any current plans for backwards compatibility with old PSVR games, which is a question head scratcher. And last of all, there's a rumor with not a lot of credibility that Half-Life Alyx is going to be coming to PSVR, which I think would be awesome. That would sell me on it.
Me too. I want to play that game really bad.
Yeah, I think if Half-Life Alyx came to PSVR, that'd be okay. I need to buy a PS5 now. I need to buy a PSVR 2, and I need to buy Half-Life Alyx. Like and the controllers. I'll go full in on that.
Yeah.
But anyways, that kind of leads to our next point. Naughty Dog, I guess, tweeted the other day they have a lot to reveal, and they're excited to reveal it. I don't. So
do you think there could be a state of play coming up? I don't know.
Well, people are wondering about that, but or maybe they'll wait till around E3. But we do know of a Last of Us remake. We know Last of Us 2 Factions, and we know of potentially a new game. I think you mentioned, Factions and probably a Last of Us remake are what's on the plate for this year. I think.
Another studio that might have a game come out this year or something might be a studio like Bend. And I think also you might get Returnal DLC. Like there's some stuff that not announced that could be coming this year that I would be pretty excited for.
Yeah, I guess my point is that it's unprecedented for Sony or Microsoft to have big tentpole releases like without having them already been announced.
True. Yeah, it depends if you think Bend is a big tentpole. But again, Returnal DLC would be so high.
Sorry, Bend did the zombie
Days Gone. Yeah,
Days Gone. But just keep in mind that Days Gone was announced like 4 years before it came out. So it's really uncharacteristic of Sony's as a publisher to show a game and have it ready within a 12-month window. It's almost never happened.
Yeah.
I mean, the most that's happened is I think back on the PS3, they would unveil an Uncharted game, the E3, and then it would come that fall. But we'd already have known about it through teaser announcements. That's kind of how Sony operates.
Yeah.
With Microsoft, it's interesting. I mean, focusing on E3 because they have all these games announced. They kind of showed their full hand. They've got Perfect Dark and Starfield. And Redfall, but who really knows what state these games are at? You know what I mean? So I can see
same with like Wolverine and Spider-Man 2, right? Those games are
totally.
I mean, there's not a good not likely they're going to be coming out this year, but they're two Insomniac games, and Miles Morales was a smaller game. I guess they did Ratchet and Clank, but I'm just saying you're right. I'm just saying we don't know what the other half of this year is bringing.
That's true. I guess where I'm coming from is more I don't expect too many surprise announcements per se, but I expect a lot of the big announcements over the last 4 or 5 years to kind of come to fruition. And the best I can hope for is that games like Redfall and Starfield and Bayonetta 3 are awesome. Yeah. I'm not necessarily hoping for like F-Zero or Pikmin.
No, yeah.
I actually don't really expect any surprise. I think on the Switch Nintendo camp, I think there's absolutely zero surprises.
I think if any games that are surprised are the games that we know about that don't have a release date for this year. You know what I mean? Like I can see Breath of the Wild 2 or Metroid Prime 4, but I don't see like even a Pikmin 4 could happen, but I don't see I don't see a lot of new games out of nowhere coming out.
I doubt it too. I mean, I think if anything, we'll get more of the remake lineup, like a Twilight Princess, the Wind Waker remake, or maybe we'll get a Metroid Prime remake that's heavily rumored, and that'll kind of fill out the year. But the only surprise I can see is maybe from Nintendo EAD. They've been quiet for a while. They did Odyssey. They've rumored to be working on a Donkey Kong. So I can see them making a big unveil in June and having it ready for the fall. But it seems like other than 2020, where the COVID kind of messed up the whole world, Nintendo has always had a showing in or around June, in or around E3, that is their big tentpole for the year. And this year it was clearly Pokemon remakes, Metroid, and in past years it's been other various games. So I do expect there to be some answer there, and I don't expect it to be something like Bayonetta 3. It's going to be something that'll sell.
It could be Splatoon 3, depending on when they plan to release that.
That's true. That could end up being their holiday game. I think that'd be a bit disappointing, but or it could be Breath of the Wild 2, or it could be a Nintendo EAD game, or it could be a new 2D Mario. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, that kind of leads to my next question. When do you think the next Direct will be, and what do you think will be do you think there'll be any reveals, like new major kind of announcements other than gameplay info?
I don't know if there'll be too many new reveals. I think it'll be probably in February, because I know there was one in February 2021, I believe. Yep. I think we're going to see a lot of games in greater detail. So I think we're going to get Splatoon 3 probably more in detail. We'll get Advanced Wars again with coming out. My dream is always Silk Song, but I mean, it's almost a pipe dream these days. And I again, you and I are on different camps in Breath of the Wild. I see Breath of the Wild again probably getting a trailer and say stay tuned for more at E3, or a release date or a title, or the Metroid Prime, Bayonetta 3. Just again, I think it's those same kind of reoccurring games. Kirby, I don't necessarily think we're gonna get a new Donkey Kong. I think even Metroid that we haven't seen anything of, or Pikmin, or even Breath of the Wild 2 are the longest shots we'll get. Those
Agreed.
Are unlikely, but I think we're gonna get deep dives into like Splatoon, Bayonetta 3, Advanced Wars, games like that.
Yeah, I think it'll be one of those one of those directs that they kind of come out and say this is going to focus on games in the first half of the year, right? And then there'll obviously be like some sort of name drop or something for like a late fall release. But for the most part, they will focus on that first half of the year. And I mean, I really think it'll end up being a focus on Kirby and Advance Wars, which I think will come out. I think Advance Wars is going to be an April game. Kirby will be in May or June. And then maybe we'll get a Twilight Princess or the Wind Waker.
I think we're going to see Splatoon
HD.
3.
I think we'll see Splatoon 3, but I think that'll get an August release date. I think that'll get like a July or August kind of later release date, so not a focus at E3. I think the other possibility is maybe getting the Game Boy Color on Virtual Console. I feel like the sales for N64 haven't come off to a great start, and it's a lot of bad press, and been a lot of rumors about that. So I can see them jumping the gun a little earlier on that. Because, I mean, it's just embarrassing every month with one more N64 game.
Yeah. Well, what was this month? Do you know?
It was Paper Mario, and then some point in January, Banjo-Kazooie's coming.
Okay.
My finger was on the trigger recently. I almost did it, but I was like, nope. I have restraint. I'm going to wait for a few more releases.
And you have Banjo on Game Pass.
It's not for Banjo. To me, it'd be mostly for Paper Mario and Star Fox 64 and Insane Punishment. But yeah, the only real announcements I see happening this year are I do think Twilight Princess: The Wind Waker is coming. Do you think that's? You haven't really predicted that.
No, I'm not. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if it did, but I also don't really. It's more that I don't care to put any eggs in that basket, because they came out on the Wii U. I get it, and I played Twilight Princess to death. I don't like Wind Waker very much. I played Skyward Sword to death. I'm not, for some reason, the remakes of the Zelda games from that like Wii onwards or even the GameCube onwards don't really do much for me. If they redid completely like A Link to the Past, or they redid completely, Majora's Mask, or Oracle of Seasons and Ages, I'm all for it. Like, sign me up day one. But it's just Twilight Princess. Again, I played that game 100% twice, so
No,
doesn't excite
Let me first say, so I don't think I'd buy these either unless I was able to get both in the same package. I'm not that interested. But I think the reason it's kind of an interesting topic is because these games are essentially finished and remastered in HD already, and they're not hard to release. I think it really just comes down to Nintendo strategically finding a release window. So I think it has less to do about them having to do much work on it, and it's really just like, well, when can we release this to maximize our sales? And I mean, Skyward Sword did really well last kind of summer, spring. Mm-hmm. And I think they're realizing, well, hey, we don't need to release these together. We can release these separately, and put a lot of marketing behind it and sell 5 million copies of these old remasters. So to me, it's not about being excited for it. It's more just as looking at a company being interested in how they're sprinkling their release windows. So I can just see them kind of following the same somewhat of a pattern of last year, and getting that spring Zelda remaster out, especially considering I don't really predict Breath of the Wild is coming this year. So I think they'll want some sort of Zelda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense.
I'd also love another top-down Zelda. It's just weird because with Breath of the Wild 2 being announced in the future, coming soon, or not coming soon, when will these games come out? Like, they inevitably will. Will they hold on to them for 5 years and then release them, or are they gonna?
Yeah.
Who really knows? But I think they know it's a big sales potential to just port those onto Switch. So that's why I'm kind of speculating about it. The other thing I think, which has been rumored, which could be announced before E3 this year, would be another Xenoblade game, either a Xenoblade Chronicles X remake, a remaster, or Xenoblade 3. And I can see that being announced early in the year if it's meant to come out late this year, and if it's meant for early next year, it'll be E3.
I can see that too. I mean, that all lines up. I saw those rumors as well. Again, like I haven't. It's not that I don't care to talk about Zelda or Xenoblade. It's more that I don't have a lot of game in those franchises, so I haven't like put a lot of thought into those release dates. But again, like I could see Xenoblade coming out, as their kind of their holiday game. That's not their big game. Like it's gonna be big, obviously. I just mean, they'll. It's kind of like the Mario Party of the holiday, where obviously it's a big game. It's going to probably sell better than Metroid Dread, but it's the same kind of idea of Xenoblade tied with another big game.
I wouldn't be so sure about that. I think Xenoblade 2 sold just above 2 million, and that was considered a success for the series as the highest selling Xenoblade. But I do think Metroid Dread will end up a little higher.
Oh, sorry, I meant Metroid Dread outselling Mario Party.
Oh yeah.
I'm saying Mario Party and Metroid Dread is like a 1-2 punch. I could see Xenoblade coming out in the holidays as a 1-2 punch to a bigger game.
Absolutely, yeah, and just I don't think that game is going to be Metroid Remake or Bayonetta 3. Like Nintendo doesn't seem to stack a lot of their like more mature releases. Mm-hmm. So I think they would need to pair this holiday with a kind of a bouncier game for kids. I even think that even Breath of the Wild 2 and Bayonetta 3 as a holiday would be. I feel like they'd still want like a Mario Party or a Mario sports game to kind of balance that. You know what I mean? Because Breath of the Wild isn't really for adults. Isn't really for kids.
I could see. I honestly, I think Bayonetta 3 is going to be released significantly before Breath of the. Well,
I was predicting September for Bayonetta 3.
Yeah,
because that's when Bayonetta 2 came out,
and I could see March for Breath of the Wild. Too.
That's what I'm thinking. March with the Switch 4K or the Switch 2. That's what
2020, 2023, obviously.
Yeah, I just wonder if this fall game is going to be, they want to have something with Mario or something.
A big game, exactly.
But I do think they could get away with something like a fall that had a Metroid Remake, a Xenoblade, and a Mario Strikers.
They could also
or a Mario Baseball.
They could also honestly get away with a Pokemon Gen 9.
Oh, with Arceus, I just don't see that.
I know, me neither. But it's a remake and a spin-off game in some ways. So you know what I mean? Like Brilliant Diamond is a remake, and they had a kind of, even though I know Arceus is in a way a bigger scope, it also is just a spin-off. And I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, we can speculate that as the year kind of unfolds. But interestingly, I was reading about Arceus. And it comes out in 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's the 22nd, 27th.
How are you feeling about that? I've watched a little bit of media and news. They've been pretty quiet on marketing. which has some people concerned that maybe why are they so quiet about marketing? What do you think?
Yeah, I haven't been following it for the past few months just because I wasn't totally invested. I think when it gets closer, I'll check reviews, and if they blow me away, then I might grab it. Otherwise, I'll see what my friends say. I have friends that will pick it up for sure. So I'll see how they feel about it before I kind of jump in. I mean,
I gotta say, no part of any gameplay reveal so far has interested me in the absolute least. Like nothing has been appealing to me. Like the initial unveiling kind of was that, oh, is this finally the open world Pokemon? And the more we've seen, the more we realize it's not. And I think it looks pretty boring. And the only value of it to me is being like, oh, Pokemon and I can go any direction. I'm not like guided in very, very linear paths. Like I can go anywhere, which.
But I have a feeling we're going to be a lot more guided than we realize.
I agree. It'll be like, here's this area that looks big, but you can't go over there or over there.
Yeah, and
it's like walk down there.
A very clear mission that has like a pointed arrow the whole time. Like
it'll be like catch a Charizard and you run down to the beach and there's like only Charizards on the beach.
Yeah, like I seriously, because again, like 6-year-olds will play this game.
Yeah, I'm more. It's more with Pokemon. I just from the sidelines, I like to kind of see where it's at and how it goes. And this one is a wild card because
I want to see it, and I'm glad they're changing the formula. And I hope if this bombs, that it doesn't prevent them from taking risks in the future. But I just want to see what happens in the next few weeks about this game, not necessarily for me, but just in general interest of the franchise.
Yeah, totally. And there is a formula for this game where it does become the kind of what Animal Crossing was last year with like, the lockdown and, at least in Canada where we're locked down. And it seems like it kind of feels like now, oh, where's our big game coming out that we're going to play during lockdown? Like, where's our Animal Crossing? Where's our Doom? Where's our Final Fantasies? All those games we played in 2020. I'm kind of thinking, well, is there potential for that to happen again? Where is Pokemon Arceus that game that becomes that like online cultural moment? I don't know. I really don't know enough about the gameplay, but it could. But it's weird. I don't know if those cultural moments mean as much as we think, because Mario Kart 8 seems to demolish sales. We don't hear that being a cultural moment on Twitter, and Metroid Dread seemed to be so full of rage online, and it fell out of the top 10 and NPD very quickly. So sometimes the loudness in the room doesn't reflect on the overall sales,
Yeah.
So the last bit of news we have this week is IGN made a top 100s game list.
Okay.
Which, it's IGN, so they're usually...
I think I saw this a little bit, but I didn't read it.
Yeah, some of it I don't really know. I mean, so they have a top 10 here that I've copied. Do you want me to read you the top 10?
Sure, yeah.
So at number 10 is Disco Elysium. Number 9, Half-Life 2. Number 8, Red Dead Redemption 2. Number 7, Mario 64. Number 6, Mass Effect 2. Number 5, Super Metroid. Number 4, Zelda: Link to the Past. Number 3, Portal 2. Number 2, Super Mario World. And number 1, Breath of the Wild.
I mean, those are all very good games. I would probably, again, I've only played maybe 7 of those. I'd probably put all of them in the top 50 if I had played them all. But I don't know if I'd put them all in the top 10.
Yeah, it's so subjective at that point, and
exactly.
It also kind of comes down to it, like, okay, so you've put Mario World here. Now that's going to inadvertently mean that like Mario 3 and Super Mario Bros are going to be lower.
Same with Ocarina of Time, right? Ocarina of Time, I think was 34 on that list or something, and exactly.
Yeah, so there's a couple oddities on the list, like just Hollow Knight's rather low and things like that. So I don't know, it's kind of a shrug. Like I almost think these lists are a little bit ridiculous, and I don't think
Breath of the Wild is the best game ever made, personally. But I think it's phenomenal. I think it deserves to be in the top 5 even, but I don't think it's the top 5 best games ever made.
I mean, it's a hard thing with games because it's like they're ever improving. And it's kind of hard to look back. Like, I mean, even for me, I've been replaying Metroid Prime, and there's a lot of ways where I'm replaying it, and I'm playing it on GameCube, by the way, not Wii. So I have like no real way to like look and move at the same time. So it feels a little dated, and I'm kind of starting to like. I love the game, don't get me wrong, but I'm starting to kind of come to this term of being like, well, do I have to hold it into encapsulate it in the time it came out when I'm thinking about these things, or am I comparing it to games that are like modernized? Mm-hmm. Because clearly the graphics of these games aren't as good, right? Like clearly the top 10 games should be games that came out in the last like 5 years based on graphics and polish and load times and standards. But then you have to kind of hold into account games that had a huge influence.
Yeah.
But then you can also look at a game like Mario World, which holds up really well, where I don't know if Mario 64 really does, but at least it was revolutionary. So it's kind of a silly list. It's almost like you can't really have a top 100 or 10 list. It has to almost be like my personal top, as in like for my own nostalgia and feelings.
Yeah, I almost think that's just assumed at this point.
But when it's from a website like IGN, it's a pooling of their journalists.
Yeah.
So I guess, I don't know. I mean, I guess in that respect, yeah, but there was also I believe it was Famitsu Japan had a top, or it wasn't Famitsu, it was some big Japanese publication released their top 100 list. And it was so interesting to look at because of the way that they have so few series, like in other like franchises represented. Like there's tons of Pokemon and both Splatoons, tons of Pokemon, tons of Final Fantasy, tons of Kingdom Hearts, where like, the American lists seem like they're trying to pull a little bit from everywhere, you know? But anyways, yeah, it's kind of a silly, I mean, I have my top 100 list, but to try to be altruistic about it almost seems silly to me. Yeah, any thoughts there?
No, I agree with you.
What do you think the number one game of all time is?
Let me just pull up my list of my favorite games.
So you have a list now too.
I have like top 20 of my personal favorite games.
So mine started as a top 20 list. It grows. And right now my top is Breath of the Wild. And my top 3, Breath of the Wild, Metroid Prime, and Resident Evil 4, like always change. So I'm almost inclined to think Resident Evil 4 is the best. But
I'll read you my list, okay? My whole list.
Okay.
Okay, I got Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars.
Number 1.
No, there's no order.
Okay.
Zelda: A Link to the Past, Golden Sun 1 and 2, Donkey Kong Country 2, The Last of Us 1 and 2, Smash Bros. Ultimate, Resident Evil 4, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Metroid Prime, Yoshi's Island, StarCraft 1 and 2, Diablo 2, Zelda: Ocarina of Time, The Witness, Celeste, Hollow Knight, and then I put Baba Is You, The Outer Wilds, and Returnal.
Yeah, that sounds like a kind of list you'd have. Those are all games you've raved about over the last few years.
Yeah, and I think even some of these games are the games I like played for thousands of hours growing up.
I'm surprised Overwatch is not in there.
I know that's the one game I think I did. I went back and forth on it and
kind of fell off. Overwatch. It was fun for a minute.
It was good for I played like hundreds of hours in the first few months, but then I just dropped it. Where all these games is like every single one of these games is a game I would pick up again and still play the hell out of it.
Yeah. I mean that's kind of where it comes at. Like I always ask myself, well, like, do I want to replay this game? But that's it. That's a good list. You should number them though. Like you should try to find a number one.
I think if I was being totally honest, my number one would probably be A Link to the Past or Seven Stars.
Those two, yeah,
or Smash Ultimate. Those three. Those are my top 3 for sure.
I mean, I honestly think that between A Link to the Past and or that the other Mario RPG, both in many ways they both deserve to be on the top 10 list always. Like they're both.
Me too. Yeah.
They'll have so much. They're almost perfect and perfectly fleshed out, and their worlds are fleshed out in a way that modern games aren't.
And even their graphics again are timeless kind of styles that still look good today in my mind.
Mm-hmm. And I mean that introduction of A Link to the Past is iconic and will never go away from the pantheon of gaming. And same with Super Metroid. Both of them have just these kind of cinematic introductions that with rain and destruction and everything that have but keep working on your list. I'd be interested to know. It's the hardest part is ranking
numbering. Yeah.
Because it's like even on I have over 100 movies and games on my list, my top list now, and it's always like, okay, like does this one really outweigh this one? And I'll like have a memory about a movie and be like, oh yeah, and I'll look on the list and be like, but how is it below this one?
That's how how I feel about. Well, 100 is too many, but that's even how I'm feeling about Game of the Year this year. It's like I'm like, oh, this game's 7. I'm like, but is that really below what I have for 6? And it's like, well, then I knock it down. I'm like, well, dang, like like it keeps shuffling all over. So yeah, it's.
I mean I'm having to be a little bit democratic on my list too, in a way that kind of saying, okay, well, this is not a game I'm going to play more than other games, but it's something that I like appreciate how magnificent it is. You know, like I had to put Microsoft Flight Simulator on my list because, you know, and I actually made a top 15, top 15 games of 2021.
Yeah, I could do that too.
Maybe we should just do our top 5, maybe our top 10, and then we just have our bottom 5 honorable mentions.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
So moving on, what's the next game you're gonna get, Derek?
Ooh, good question.
This includes Game Pass downloads.
Oh, I don't know what's coming out in Game Pass in the next few months.
Well, the one thing that I'm looking at is the Mass Effect Trilogy Legacy Edition.
Oh, hard pass.
Okay, I've never played them. I don't.
Me neither. There's too many hours and too much story for me to be able to even imagine biting off those kind of games.
Oh yeah. Okay, maybe I'll ignore then.
I mean, I'm sure they're phenomenal games, but it's like kind of saying like, oh, like you should play The Witcher 3. It's like, well, there's a 160-hour investment to like really enjoy the game.
I didn't love what I did play of The Witcher 3. The combat was really janky to me.
I only played like an hour or two, and it wasn't bad. But like I know the selling point is the side quests and the story, and I'm like, well, it's like I don't have time to dedicate 50 hours to really see this game shine.
Well, I think my understanding is Mass Effect has like a little bit of a third-person shooter element.
I think it's more like an RPG and I think it's almost like a turn-based RPG.
Well,
again, I don't know. I haven't.
I'm erasing that off the list.
Sorry,
it's probably Elden Ring.
I mean, you know what? At the same point, if it's free, you might as well download it and try it.
Well, yeah, you're right. But it's just I wasn't planning to do all 3. I was just maybe trying to take a bite out of the first one and just say, oh yeah, I know more about that now.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
So for me, I agree. It's definitely Elden Ring, but there's a chance that a week before it, I get Horizon Forbidden West, and a week after Elden Ring, even though I am 100% getting Elden Ring, is Triangle Strategy. So I have 3 games kind of back to back to back that I'm pretty sure I'm getting. It's just the Horizon Forbidden West. Will I get that day one or wait? But I'm leaning towards getting it day one. Everything I see about it just makes me more and more excited for it.
Horizon, yeah, it looks really great. I actually think that it coming out a week before Elden Ring is going to make for interesting comparisons. They're both open world games, but granted, I think Horizon's going to end up looking a lot better. And probably
it's going to look 100 times better. I think it's going to be way better mechanically even, but it's not. It's going to have a little bit less of that kind of creative, artistic direction that kind of people love about the Miyazaki games.
Well, I think it's also the game. I haven't played the first Horizon, so I can't really speak to it. But I know that I don't know which one gamers will prefer in terms of gameplay. But I just know people love that extra hard, kind of ruthless challenge of the Demon Souls series. So I don't know if that can translate to an open world game properly. But I do feel like these games coming out at the same time is probably not good for either of them in the end of the day.
I think Elden Ring won't be affected. It's going to sell. Everyone that plays Souls games are total fans.
I just wonder if it comes out and people are like, oh, the graphics aren't quite next gen and we've just been blown away by Horizon, and I wonder if it'll dampen that release.
I don't think it will.
Do you think Elden Ring will end up doing better than Horizon in
not
Metacritic
even
scores?
Metacritic scores. I could see. Oh, that's tough. Like I could see Forbidden West getting an 89 or a 90.
Okay.
And are you writing this down so you can guess my scores?
No.
And I could see Elden Ring. The tough thing is Elden Ring could go either way. It could be like a solid game with people find there's jank, or it could be considered the best game from since Demon Souls because it's open world. It's changing the formula. It's doing some things that are pretty new while still maintaining that great kind of core system they have going. Mm-hmm. So I could see that go. I could see that game being a 95. But I could also
that's the hard thing. Yeah, exactly. It's so hard with Elden Ring to kind of predict.
I could see it being like the pinnacle Souls game ever made. But I could also see it being like, oh, it's a little bit empty. Since it's open world, there's a little bit boring side quests. It's a little janky. Bit of jank. Yeah. So that one
terrible end game or something.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. But I think sales wise, Horizon will kick the shit out of Elden Ring.
Yeah. But maybe not, because Elden
Maybe
Ring
not.
is
I'm not
across
saying it's
all
not
platforms.
exactly. And Elden Ring's not unpopular. I mean, From is not an unpopular developer, but I just mean I think Zero Dawn did insanely well.
I mean, I can see both landing anywhere from 85 to 95, and that's a pretty big gap.
Me too. I don't think either of them will be below that though.
No, I really don't. I mean, I really don't. I think they'll both do really well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Elden Ring's probably my next game, and I'm pretty stoked for it.
Yeah, me too. I'm so happy that you're stoked for it because I really want you to like go through one From game at least.
Yeah, I will. And you know what? I don't know after that game what game I'm even kind of that interested in. I think it'll end up being Kirby or Advance Wars, but there's not much
triangle
known.
strategy for me.
Totally. I mean, that game looks great. It's not my kind of game, but I guess I don't really know of an April, May, June release. So that's why I'm kind of expecting a little bit more announcements over the next month or two.
Let me pull up my list because I do have I have every game that's coming out in order. But I think like Forspoken again. I don't think they're games that you and I are gonna get. But there's Forspoken, Saints Row comes out in August. So yeah, honestly, you're right. The only it goes for my list. I have Triangle Strategy in March, and then Forspoken in May, and then nothing else is announced, at least with a release date, until August.
Yeah, I mean, I know third parties and indies kind of fill in those blank spots for Xbox and PlayStation. Like I know Stalker's going to come out, and
some
like
and some of the games for me, I have a placeholder date if I don't know their exact date. So I'm sure there's other games like. I don't know what, but like Kirby, for example, I don't have written down there.
I think if we haven't seen something that's been played, like in gameplay form, then we can't expect it before June, or it'll be announced soon. It'll better be announced real soon.
Like but there's some interesting games like a Plague Tale Requiem. Like we saw gameplay. That game's not going to be the hugest game. I could see that coming.
Yeah, that could be like a June, but they'd have to announce it soon.
Yeah, exactly.
I can see Nintendo showing a brand new, Mario sports game or something in February and it coming for June. That's kind of what they did last year with Zelda, but we'll see. But anyways, Derek, what have you been playing? I have 4 games on my list to talk about.
Okay, why don't you start and we'll go back and forth because I have a lot.
So I could put 10 games here.
Okay. That's what I mean.
I chose 4 to kind of focus in on that I've been playing more of.
Okay, let me write some down.
Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is I beat Halo Infinite.
Okay.
Beat the campaign. Did you beat it?
I did not beat it. I have now focused on just doing the campaign, and I probably will try to finish it maybe by like early next week. I want to finish it, but I'm not doing any of the side stuff anymore. I'm like literally just playing the campaign.
Yeah, so not really a spoiler, but the end of the game, I mean, the last chunk of the game it's just straight linear. So it's a good I want to say it's a good 25% of the game is just straight up linear.
Okay, I don't mind that though. Like
I don't mind it either, and I really love the art design of the interior worlds and stuff, and I some of the boss fights were fun, and I really enjoyed my time with it. But just as an FYI, once you finish that last chunk, they do spit you back out in the world and basically say, okay, now you can go do all the things that you didn't finish. So now, now you can go anywhere and be Breath of the Wild. Explore.
Okay.
So that to me was more fun than like this linear romp at the end. But yeah, I guess it's an odd game. It's going to be in my top 10 list because I just really enjoyed the gameplay. I think it's like really really smooth and really addictive and fun, and the graphics and art design are incredible. The music's incredible, but I couldn't help but feel even more so that it's got that Metal Gear Solid 5 syndrome where it's like they've got a really great gameplay system and controls and animation and everything, and
but
then
not a lot to do with it.
They like didn't build the actual game. It's like they built 1/3 of a game and they're like, oh, we have this open world and we're gonna populate it, but we're running out of time, so just like kind of like put a boss here and there and let's finish it up,
Yeah.
So, and it's just the biomes and the lack of diversity, and it really comes to a point where you're realizing that like the levels in the original Halo games had like design to them that is frankly not here at all, especially in the open space. Like there's not an area where it's like, you have to go through this cave that leads to a waterfall that leads to like some different unique areas. Nothing.
Yeah, this is exactly how I feel. And we talked a lot about
We
this
talked about this.
last podcast, but yeah.
At the same time, I think it's going to end up higher on my list than yours, just because I know they're going to keep working on this, and I know there's going to be.
It's not even on my list.
Okay, well, it's on my list. I'll say it's definitely not leaving the list because I can't deny that I had fun with it. But I'm
not saying I didn't have fun with it either. I played 10 to 12 better games.
True. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. In terms of polish and like world scope and breath of fresh air, like this series felt like one of the biggest games and biggest releases of the year for me. And it's just the polish and everything. But I mean, polish in the gameplay, not in the world. But I also just think that they released an unfinished game, and you almost interpreting it as a games as a service game. I do think we're going to see like major single player content coming out for this game. Like we're going to see at least see new biomes and probably see stuff like that continually to come out. And I wouldn't be surprised if one of Microsoft's like holiday surprises, whether it's this year or next year during their Xbox Series X generation, they come out and they go, hey, like we've got a DLC story campaign for Halo Infinite, and you're in a snowy world
and co-op. That's what we'll say.
Yeah, and it's all co-op because we couldn't figure out how to add co-op to the open world segments. So we just kind of put it into this, and maybe it'll be great. And I also think Halo it'd be cool if they had kind of like a defense. I don't know what it's called. Like, where you have like
a horde mode.
Like a horde mode, exactly. And I think that'd be really fun. But we'll see. But anyways, yeah, I've completed that, and that's kind of off my list, and that's why I was able to now start a new shooter, which is Outriders.
Okay. Do you want to Outriders, or because that's
one of my? Well, I want you to talk about it mostly. It's one of my games, but I only played through the intro, and I just can't fathom why there's no jump button. And the world feels so tight and in corridors, and I don't know. It feels like Monster Hunter with guns.
Well, it's a cover shooter, so you should feel tight and in corridors because it's like Gears of War.
Yeah.
I love the game. It's going to be pretty solid in the middle probably of my Game of the Year list.
Okay.
I've played through the game with two characters. I haven't fully maxed their gear and levels, but they're beaten the campaign, done the extra content at the end. I platinumed the game, so I have a pretty good idea of what I like about it. It feels to me like Destiny, but third person. I like every spell feels powerful. Like you can use every single spell in the game, and they're useful. There are a lot of cool builds. Some of the gear later on is really freaking awesome, and the synergy you can do with some of the gear is like so broken in a fun way. I like the bosses. The campaign was a good length. It wasn't something that you had to invest a lot of time in, but it was long enough where you enjoyed it. The end game is really, really fun, like these kind of raids that you do. Just lots of killing. I have no issues. I played it with a friend, and now I'm playing it with another friend. But yeah, I love it all the way. It's a really, really good game to me.
I mean, I guess I need to just get into the online and start playing with a friend, and I didn't love it off the bat. I just felt very confined, and I guess I don't love the Gears of War kind of game.
I don't love Gears of War. This game I love way more than Gears of War.
Okay. Well, I like the idea that you're fighting big creatures in this one, though, and I do like the story in this more than Gears of War because it's like it's cool. You're on a planet and exploring it.
So you've only started, Peter. So you've only really fought humans, I think, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So there are parts in that game. Like I'm just gonna say a few of them. One, there's a part where you're fighting humans, but it's like a trench, like World War I, and you're like going over the trench and like rushing them, and there's like a line of like 30 of them shooting at you, and you just have to like it's so awesome. And then there's another part where or lots of parts where you'll meet aliens, and the aliens are kind of like the Zerg in StarCraft or the Tyranids in Warhammer, where it's like they're not strong, but they literally swarm you. Cool. And so you're not killing like 6 humans, you're killing like 40 of these like little hunterlings that like just hunt you down. It's cool.
Okay, I mean, I'm gonna give it another go.
Yeah,
it's my shooter.
I'll play with you. Like I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Well, anyways, what have you been playing?
So I went home for the holidays, so some of the games that I played, I'm going to talk about Ender Lilies and Death's Door. I don't think we've talked about them. So I downloaded
have
those.
We not? I guess we haven't. Yeah, we both beat Death's Door.
Yeah, we both beat Death's Door. I like that game a lot. It's on the cusp of making my Game of the Year list. I thought it had great world, great story, great animation. Was the perfect length. Really, really good.
I agree. It's like low on my list right now. I thought it was really good and tight, and like it's like what an indie game should be. In
Exactly.
my opinion.
Agreed.
But at the same time, I can't help but say like it didn't leave a lasting impression on me since I beat it like 2 weeks ago. And,
Me
and
too.
normally games do. So I don't know. That's actually factoring into it negatively on my list.
No, I totally agree. Like I'm not walking away from it like Death or Hollow Knight or Baba Is You, where it's like, damn, those games like are
Like that, that Kermit the Frog meme where he's looking out the window while it's raining.
yeah.
And he goes, just beat a good game, and he's like sitting by the pond, sitting his teeth, like he's reflecting. Like I didn't have much of that with Death's Door.
No, and like it was still a fun game, and like I think it's probably one of the best indie games of the year.
For sure.
But you're right. Like I don't think this is a game next year people are going to be talking about and like analyzing.
No,
In comparing to.
It was almost like a game that, rather than a game like Hollow Knight or Dead Cells or Hades, it's like pushing the genre forward.
It's just a
like
really good, refined game.
Mashup of other genres. Yeah, like derivative but polished. Yeah,
Exactly. Agreed. And the other one, Ender Lilies, I felt kind of the same idea. It's it's a Metroidvania, kind of a blasphemous Souls difficulty, but with the Metroid kind of world. Backtracking in different parts and upgrades. I like this game a little bit more than Death's Door, but same feeling where it's like, I've now haven't played it for a couple weeks, and just reflecting on it, it's like it is a really good game, but it's never a game I'm going to play again. It's the same exact feeling. So totally.
Where something like, I know you'd recently gotten into Cyber Shadow, that game that I played in January when it first came out, has stayed with me. And like I just watched it was on someone's top 10 list recently, and they talked about the music and they talked about the graphics, and I was like, yeah, that game did have amazing music, and all these memories shot back, and I'm like, yeah, this was an awesome game.
Death's Door had amazing music. Like Cyber Shadow.
Death's Door had amazing music, but Cyber Shadow had a great 8-bit chiptune soundtrack too.
Yeah, see, like to me, Cyber Shadow, again, I loved that. These three are actually all beside each other. Cyber Shadow is the bottom of the three, though.
Interesting. To me, Cyber Shadow is the top of those three.
Interesting.
You beat Cyber Shadow, right?
I did, yeah. I really liked that game, and I thought it reminds me of almost like a Mega Man game. Like it was really, really good.
It was like Mega Man meets Metroid meets Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah,
those are three kind of old school series. You know what I love about those games? I mean, I think Yacht Club Games, who did Shovel Knight, published it. I didn't develop it, but it almost feels like if we could go back in time and make like the best possible game on the NES with like all the modern sensibilities of upgrades and not being too hard and not being glitchy. It's like
would be it.
I feel like I'm like transported back in time, with like games like Shovel Knight and that, where it's just like, wow, this is really cool.
Yeah.
But anyways, go on. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. So I'll just say a few other games. Like we've already kind of talked about the Xbox games that I'm still chipping away at. Mm-hmm. But some different games that I've been trying are I played Tetris Connected. It's on Game Pass.
You loved it.
I've never been a Tetris guy. I knew the rules and I knew kind of what to do and how to get T-spins and Tetrises. But I loved it. I played the whole campaign on normal. Like the last few levels, I was like, grinding hard, putting in like some real fast movements to make it through, and I beat it on normal, which is I'm pretty like blown away that I managed that. I liked it a lot, but I think you said I think you played Tetris Effect, but I think you said one time it's a really fun game to watch, but when you're playing it, you don't really have a chance to look at all the cool visuals because you're so focused on playing Tetris. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that was your opinion, but that's how I kind of felt. Whereas like the music was good and the effects were cool, but like I was so into just trying to not die in the game that I didn't really get to enjoy the other aspects of the game.
Well, that's the whole thing for me. Is I played it, on Xbox way back. It's beautiful, but there is an element of like this is really just a visual flair on top of Tetris.
Well, that's what it is. But that was okay with me. That's what I wanted. I knew what I was getting when I went in. I love Tetris now. I thought Tetris is amazing, and I still have it downloaded. I'd probably play Tetris over and over again. But again, it's not.
That's the kind of game to me. That's more like a game I would play on a handheld. Like that's something I'd almost want to get Tetris Effect for Switch, which just came out.
Oh, never! I'd want it on my big screen.
But yeah, I know how beautiful it is, and that game's not from this year. I don't think, by the way, so you can't put it on your list.
It's not on my. It wouldn't even make my list.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I don't know. I don't look for that kind of game. And I mean, the ultimate Tetris game we all know was Tetris DS.
Okay, I don't.
Do you remember that
I,
game?
no, I'm not. I'm not like a Tetris connoisseur. I know like this one and only Tetris game.
Okay, well, the Tetris DS was like an amazing DS game that like propagated the DS early in its life, and it had like really good online modes and things like that. So it was really cool. But
Okay.
anyways,
You want to go? I have about
Yeah.
two, maybe three more games.
okay, I've got two more on. I think one of them is what you've been playing too. It's Unpacking.
Yep. So let's talk about that.
This has been on my list. I almost bought it for Switch, I think, but yeah, I don't know why. But then I saw it was on Game Pass, and I said, okay, I'll give it a try. And I loved it. I was able to beat it in two sittings, two short sittings. It's a very, very short game.
Yeah.
It's a weird one for me because I absolutely loved every moment of it. But it feels like completely too short. Like I expected that I'd get to a point where I'd be filling in and unpacking mansions and unpacking giant factories and office buildings and firehouses and all sorts of random things. And it kind of felt like I got cut short. Like I got the first feels like 10% of the game.
Yeah, like the first
And-
character almost.
Yeah, and I guess I just figured with how simple it was and that they designed this engine that seems to work really, really well. It's really, really cool pixel graphics that fits everything together in a cube map. I just really, really want more. I really want a sequel. So I love this game. I think it was a great little game, but I don't know. It's hard to recommend being so short, you know?
Yeah, like I would say if you have it Game Pass and you can play it for free, definitely play it. I don't even know the cost of it, but yeah, I agree. Like I'm now
$20 US. So it'd be
Wow,
about
that's-
$29.99 Canadian. Yeah, which
think
is way too high.
way too high. Yeah, I'm in the last level. I feel the same. Like I really like it. I think it's kind of a cool way to tell a story, even. And I'm surprised that you were able to beat it in two sittings. I really like the game, but it does feel a little bit monotonous and samey once you're playing for 20 minutes. So I'm like, oh damn, I just started another level and like it's the exact same thing. Even
Well,
like
I was taking
even
turns
six,
with Vanessa, so.
but even it's like 60% of the same items. So for
Well,
me, it's
that's
like
kind of the fun of the game is you see what items you've been
I know
keeping
it's
for all these
yeah,
years.
and it's story building, of course. But I just again, I'm not complaining about the game, but for me, it's I beat a level and I play the next level the next day. Like I need to kind of have some space.
I don't know why. I just sat down and I just did one level. I'm like, oh, I want to see where this goes, and I just kept going and going and going, and then I got to the end and the credits rolled. I'm like, what the heck? Like, I feel like I just got started. Where's the mansion?
Yeah, I knew going in that it was a short game because I saw some people comment about that.
Did you beat it?
No, I'm on the last level, like the big house. I'm assuming it's the last level, the big house with the baby.
the two floors.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird. It's weird because it's one of those games where, like, yeah, it's really well designed, but had it been that kind of like, you know, like Baba Is You has like so many levels at a certain point.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
And a lot of puzzle games just have that kind of like they just fall off a cliff with how much depth in levels and just interesting, unique layouts there are. And like I kind of for a puzzle game that's relatively simple and doesn't have secrets or a lot of functionality with there's no online
There
or
are
multiplayer.
some secrets.
There's like one little secret per level if you click on something in the world, but it just felt like it was 10% of a game that could have been literally amazing.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
a little bit disappointing, but I get why they had to release it this way, and hopefully, I mean, I look forward to a sequel or unpacking expansion or something.
Yeah.
So what else have you been playing, Derek?
Yeah, so one game I want to talk about for 30 seconds. I downloaded Visage, the horror game.
Okay.
I played it for like 2 hours. It wasn't for me. It's cool. I mean, if you want to play a horror game that's like, you're in a house, lights flicker, and like something chases you, it's worth checking out. It's free on Game Pass. It's apparently like the scary horror game to play. That's not like
I've not even heard of it.
yeah. So it's free on Game Pass. That I knew about it. I knew it was a scary game. There were moments that I was pretty scared.
What's
But
it
again-
called? Sorry.
Visage, like face in French.
Okay, I'm gonna check that out if it's on Game Pass.
Yeah, it's cool, and like it's. I don't want to spoil anything, but you have like a sanity meter, and if you stay in the dark too long, you go further insane.
Love it. So
But you're not-
they
but
haven't
you're-
had that since Eternal Darkness.
But you're not actually insane. What it just means is like there's more likely chances of paranormal stuff happening, and like the thing is you carry around light bulbs and candles and a lighter, but you only have so much inventory space. So it's like, damn, I want to go in the basement, but the light just burnt out, and I can use my light bulb here, but then I have to move it from here. It's like It's
that can
good.
be a very careful balance between really, really engrossing limitations or extremely frustrating.
I didn't find it I didn't find it frustrating at all. I just I might honestly like I deleted it because I was like wanted to play something else, but I almost feel like I want to keep playing it now that I think about it. So I might go back to it just because it was pretty fun.
But I'll check it out.
Yeah, and the last game I want to talk about, and I think you played a very short amount of it, is Chicory.
Yeah, I got it for Switch. Where did you get it?
I got it on the Switch too. I've beaten the first dungeon, I guess, boss, I think, and I've explored a bit more. I can tell this game's gonna get good, so I actually want to devote more time to it.
Okay. I'll tell you where I got up to the first boss, where you get to that kind of wacko boss where it's like
With the
drawing in
eyes.
their eyeballs. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was kind of
I
like,
saw-
I was kind of like, okay, this is really indie, isn't it? You know.
So I beat that and got maybe an hour further.
Okay.
And like at first I was not coloring anything, and then eventually I stopped and tried to color every level like a little bit and like color the trees and have fun. But now I'm kind of like, I really want to play this game, but I just don't care to color in every screen.
That's
I just
how
want
I'm at. Yeah, and you can make your paintbrush so small and get so fine details, but I'm just
You should Google some of the drawings people have done, because eventually I think like I was looking. Eventually you get a power or something that lets you make a portrait of every character. So you talk to them, you can do a portrait. And some people are like doing the most hardcore detailed portraits of every character.
Does it ever come to a point where my paintings are actually reflected in the gameplay, or are they actually reflected in, like, do other people get to come online and see the world I painted?
No, I don't think so.
So it just seems like a waste of time. It's like,
People are sharing. It's like people are sharing them on they just use the share function.
I guess the problem I had with the earlier gameplay was it seemed like painting was just some sort of way to make shrubs grow, and then like it just didn't really seem like it actually.
I think it becomes a main mechanic. Like, did you beat that first boss?
Yeah,
So that first boss gives you a power up, as you know.
I didn't. I actually stopped like right when I beat it, so I don't know.
So it gives you a power up that lets you color in gems in the caves that they glow and light up.
Okay.
But it's cool because when you color them, it colors it like if you color it like neon blue, it lights up neon blue, but it colors things around it neon blue.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Until you turn that light off. So it's like, and then there's puzzles where it's like, oh, these little creepy black spider things hide from the light. But then you have the guy, like
I'll keep going then. It's
I know,
a little slower paced, right? Like you don't really have too much fast action or anything, do you?
No, I think it's more like a puzzle game. But for me, I don't care about coloring for fun anymore. I'm just gonna play the game for like even if it's short. I just want to experience the puzzles and kind of have fun with it.
Yeah. Okay, I'll keep going with it. I guess I wish the controls. I wish there was a gyro aiming with the
You can
gyro,
with the Joy-Cons.
not with the Pro controller though.
I don't know. The Joy-Cons.
Okay, I'll look into that because like I found the controls a little bit annoying.
I switched to the Joy-Cons and I actually liked it a lot more.
Okay, good to know.
Anyways, that's all I've been playing really.
Well, the last game I'll talk about that I've been actually playing a lot of, I just got it the other day. It was on Game Pass. It's called Sable.
Oh, it's on Game Pass. Okay.
Yeah, and so it's a very interesting game. It's hard to kind of place. I can see someone playing it for 5 minutes and just being like, no. Let me put it this way. I love it. I think it's great, and it's given me some of those Breath of the Wild moments of like. You can go anywhere and you climb like Breath of the Wild. So it's kind of like, well, I just want to get over that peak and see what that cool looking statue is. Mm-hmm. And then you get to that statue and it's like, you kind of get this unlock and something cool. And you're like, well, now I want to go over there. And it has that kind of, and you almost can't stop playing. Do you know what I mean? And you've got this cool bike and it feels like the world design. It's weird. Like it's very unpolished in places. Like you get really bad slowdown. It hasn't like bugged out on me hard, but like you'll get slowdown and you'll get pop up really badly, but there's moments where it looks stunningly beautiful. It's got this kind of cell shaded graphics and it's got a real-time lighting system. So there's like the shadows are constantly moving. It's like overly ambitious. You can tell they don't quite pull it off.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be patched over the next year and get better. So I might say hold off for that because you really have to get used to it. And the other thing is like the character animation is like 15 frames a second on purpose, so it looks like it's kind of like a cartoon that's moving slower. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
It's very, very hard to get used to. I mean, when I first started, I'm like, wow, I'm like, I'm just gonna do a little bit and quit. But and then I kind of got enticed into like, oh, you just need a few parts to get your bike, and then when you get your bike, you can explore, and then once you get your bike, it's like it's cool. Like the town you're in, like everyone leaves and they leave you a note being like, okay, we're moving on. Like now is your chance to go and explore. And it's got this really cool, mysterious story. And it's almost like you're exploring it's hard to explain. Like, like how that, in the game, like The Witness and even for me, Breath of the Wild and like Metroid Prime, it almost has this religious feeling to it.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're exploring this area for the first time and it's like mythic, right? You're seeing this giant statue and it's coming alive and you're like, oh my God, like this is amazing. It's like,
it's a good sense of like awe.
Yeah. And a lot of games fail to capture that. And this game captures it in some ways like better than Breath of the Wild. And interesting, I just want to talk about because it's going to be on my Game of the Year list, but it's divisive because it's not polished in the graphics department. But it's got that openness that Zelda has where you can go anywhere at any time. Like you don't have to go there. You can do any type of quests.
Yeah.
But there's zero combat. And everyone in the world is like really nice to you. And it's really just about exploring. But when you do explore, like you do get to like a castle that's on top of a sky, or you find like a half of a piece of an old wrecked ship and you explore it, like they're so unique in their design where almost in Breath of the Wild, like you got some great towns, but other than that, there was a lot of kind of copy paste when it came to the unique places, right? Or you'd find finding a, like those, what were they called? The 120 shrines was just finding a blue rock with a doorway,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where this, you get to a place and you're like, oh, another piece of this crashed, Death Star ship that kind of blew up and crashed all over this planet. And you're like, wow, it's like a unique piece of the ship. And it's got you new surprises and new layouts within. And like you climb huge things. Like it's got that kind of go home. What's it called? Go home?
Short hike.
No, grow home, I'm thinking. Where
okay.
The Ubisoft game, you climb that huge beanstalk.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of that at points. You're so high up that you're like, you could get vertigo, So the one thing I will say, if you decide to download it, is give the graphics some time to get into.
I'm going to download it tonight and play some.
And also realize that the opening area it's very much like Breath of the Wild. Like you kind of do a little bit of a great plateau at the beginning.
Yeah, and then you're like,
and then you're free. So once you're free, you're like, whoa, like I really am free. But there are a few other things. Like you'll get to a place where it's like, it's like a beetle hive or whatever. Mm-hmm. And the beetles are just like models that sit there and don't do anything. And it's just like an object that you can crawl on. Like they don't move, they don't animate. Like there's just sometimes it feels a little lifeless, But still such an amazing ambition and great soundtrack. The music is amazing. Like they got some musician that did a great job, and the writing's really good. It's really a special game. So I highly recommend it.
Okay, I'll download it. I have a question for you, Peter. Where are you keeping up to date on the new Game Pass releases?
Usually on Reset Era there'll be a thread.
Okay.
And usually when I actually go on turn my Xbox on, once in a while, I'll just go to the Game Pass page and they'll have a what's new section.
Oh, okay, that's good to know.
And then you can just see what's new. So you don't have to go to that huge list and guess what's new. It'll actually just show you the new releases. And also, it's usually once a month it happens.
Okay, perfect.
And it always happens via like an announcement. Like Microsoft will come out and say, okay, this is what we're announcing. Like these are the 10 this month. It's not like a weird, they're drip feeding them. It's like they make it a big statement.
Okay, that's good to know.
Okay, well, Derek, I don't know if there's any other topics for today.
No, I think we're gonna have a short podcast today.
I know, it's only an hour. Wow, not 2 hours and a half like last time.
Yeah.
So I guess next time we'll have our Game of the Year. To our listeners, get excited because next episode 2 weeks from now will be our Game of the Year list.
Yeah, that'll be good.
And maybe you can let us know some of your Game of the Year thoughts if you are.
Yeah, please do, or what you think the Game of the Year will be. Well, I guess depends on the site that you use.
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of sites have already kind of said.
Yeah, exactly. In the Game Awards. So.
All right, Derek. Well, this is the Nintendo Bros podcast signing out.
Yeah. See you later.